Welcome back, everyone, once again to a brand new episode of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Jeff,
I'm Ron.
and I would just like to tell everyone be braced for a potentially weird episode because I'm just like wired.
Yeah,
I have
I'm in a
been having
weird
to.
mood.
Ron's in a weird mood. I've been having to work a lot of overtime this week, so I'm just kind of tired. And I also just biked a lot tonight
Did
on
you
my
say
stationary
20 miles?
bikes. Yeah.
Good lord.
My biking thing I've been trying to do is 50 miles per week.
Uh-huh.
By hook or by crook, like in whatever kind of intervals I can get throughout the week just to get it done. And so I'm incredibly tired, just mentally drained, but like physically wired right now because I just got done exercising. So my brain and my body just not drift compatible right now, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. So and if anyone was actually able to hear our random string of tangents that was
Oh
the
my
screen
God.
room, I don't know what this show's going to be like. So if this show is amazing, you're welcome. If this show is a clusterfuck, you're also welcome. Yeah. So, but Ron, we have a question.
I heard we might.
We do have a question. I almost forgot. Let me go
Because
to my.
a certain Bobby was asking me when we were going to record so he knew when to get it in by.
Yep. Good old Mr. Bobby. Okay. He emails us in. And again, if you want to have your questions or prompts in our little Q&A section read, you can send these into screenplayrewind@gmail.com. And as you can tell, Ryan and I will bullshit about just about anything. So just whatever you got, send it our way.
I'm nervous. I completely forgot to check the Gmail before I came in here.
So do you not know what the question is?
I do not know what the question is.
Okay. All right. Well, here's the question. Bobby writes in, okay, the dead man's hand is aces and eights. We talked about this a little bit with the Buster Scruggs episode.
Uh-huh.
And I believe it's specifically the aces and eights in black. And then Bobby went on to say, which means you have a pair of both. I'm not entirely sure what he meant by that because it's like a, it's two pair, so it would be a pair of both. It's part of the 5-card hand. But I don't know. It's Bobby. I can literally never fucking tell when Bobby's being serious or when Bobby is fucking with us, which is like a rare talent. Because usually I can tell. He's the fucking master at that, dude. Like, I am legitimately impressed every time he talks to me, and I'm just like, I don't know if you're being serious. I've known him for how long have I known him? Probably like 5 years, something like that. It's been a while.
I've known him since 7th grade, and I still can't figure the man out. I wonder how much of that was aimed at me because he knows I don't know shit about poker.
We do need to, once the pandemic is over, have poker night. Because, dude, I think you would dig some Texas Hold'em. Texas Hold'em's fucking fun.
I can play the fuck out of some Go Fish and some Old Maid.
Bobby continues, and since Jeff needs questions first to start the show now, you are correct. Thank you, Bobby. Always looking out for us. What is your favorite Coen Brothers film? That is the question.
I quickly Google Coen Brothers films.
So the obvious one that I almost have to select is The Big Lebowski. Because, I fucking love The Big Lebowski. I'm going to try to come up with a second answer just because that's the obvious one, I fucking quote it religiously. It's one of the most iconic movies of the fucking 90s, it's a masterpiece of fucking weird proportions. So I am going to try and find, as I scroll through their IMDb, what my second pick would be. Do you have an answer, Ron?
Oh boy. I didn't realize Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was one.
Yeah, if you just look up their career is very bizarre because some things that you wouldn't really associate with him is like No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Is not a prototypical Coen Brothers film, but it's fucking awesome. Like No Country for Old Men, if it had a better ending, I think, because I'm one of the people that aren't. I really like the movie overall because of what it does in the first 90% of it, but I'm not a fan of what they were trying to do with the ending of it.
Mm-hmm.
If No Country for Old Men had an ending as good as its first 2 hours of runtime, that would potentially be in the conversation.
I never saw Hail Caesar, but I wanted to.
It is okay.
It's got a hell of a cast, man.
The cast is amazing, but they don't really do much with the plot to me, so it's kind of, I mean, it's probably worth watching just for that cast, but it's nothing to write home about, I think. I'm gonna say my favorite one, if we're discounting The Big Lebowski, because I will just, concede that as my obvious favorite. True Grit, I think, is my favorite Coen Brothers movie.
See, the three I'm looking at is True Grit, No Country for Old Men, and Big Lebowski, and I'm really leaning towards Big Lebowski. It
really ties the room together.
It really does. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to go Big Lebowski, even though I feel like I'm picking between favorite children of those three.
I have a quick follow-up question for this, too.
Okay.
What is the Coen Brothers' most overrated movie? Because I have an answer to this. I will give mine, so I can give you a second to kind of browse it and think about it. I think Fargo is their most overrated movie. I think the Fargo TV show is 1,000 times better than the Fargo movie.
Interesting.
And it's one of their most iconic films.
I've never seen it.
That's a very hot take because people fucking love that movie. Let's just do a quick little Google search of the Fargo. What is the Fargo movie on Rotten Tomatoes? 94%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's up there.
I don't know most of these. So I don't know that I know enough of their career to have an answer. I do know that I thought Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was okay. It was watchable. I laughed at it. It was funny. Then I immediately forgot about it. And if you mention that movie to anyone, they're like, oh my God, that movie is so great all the time. I'm like, eh.
So here's the interesting thing, too. In the way that you haven't seen Fargo, I have only seen about half of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. I have actually not seen it in its entirety.
As soon as it was over, I just moved on with my life.
Dark horse pick. I love Raising Arizona. Have you seen Raising Arizona?
I have not.
It's really fucking funny. It's probably
that is probably the movie I have heard the most about from theirs, but I've never actually seen it. I've heard of Miller's Crossing too, but I haven't seen it.
It's 80s Nick Cage with one of the most glorious mustaches you've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
And one of the other main characters is John fucking Goodman.
Oh.
So you got to watch it. It's pretty great. It's, from what I remember, it's funny as fuck.
Well, I will show up for Nick Cage and stay for John Goodman.
Right? It's, from what I remember, it's been a few years since I've seen it. But I remember, I know my dad is a giant Raising Arizona fan, and I remember thinking it was really funny when I watched it. But it's been a few years since I watched it. I need to watch it again. 1987. So, man, the Coen Brothers have been fucking making movies for a long time.
Yeah,
their first feature film release, Blood Simple, in 1984. Shit.
I've heard of a lot of these, and there's a lot in this list that I had no idea was them. But yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of these. I don't know why. The range on their career is just absurd. Looking at this list,
yeah, they go all over the spectrum, dude. There's you have your True Grits. You have your Burn After Readings.
True Grits, so not Instant Grits, just my True Grits.
Yeah, True Grits.
No
Burn After Reading is fucking weird.
Grits.
You have No Country for Old Men, which is just like a fucking Oscar bait thriller that's really intense, and you wouldn't, associate that with them. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Big Lebowski, Fargo. It's just,
what has a Coen Brothers alum, and feels like a Coen Brothers movie, but it is not. God damn it. Hell or High Water seems like it would.
I can see that,
a Coen Brothers movie, and it's got
one of their
Jeff
more
Bridges
serious
in it.
takes.
Yeah, but not because it's the style of comedy that is in the movie is definitely Coen comedy, right? Like there's like one-liners and odd situations, and like the guy at the bank with the gun and stuff, like because that is like an oh shit moment. Also, fuck you guys moment. You're robbing a bank, but it's also really funny the way it plays out. Like a lot of that movie, Hell or High Water, feels like that. And like I said, it's got Jeff Bridges in it, who's an alum of theirs. that they've worked with several times, and it's got kind of that look and feel to it. I could easily see it in this list, and now that I'm thinking about it, for some reason that one jumps to mind as one that you could mistake for a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, and take a drink, because Taylor Sheridan, who wrote Hell or High Water, has multiple movies over the last few years that are in my short list to eventually try to have on this show. Sicario, Hell or High Water, Wind River. Have you ever heard of Wind River?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. Is that the Jeremy Renner one?
Yes.
No.
So it's Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen, and it's a murder mystery that takes place in like Alaska.
Yeah, it's on my just watch list.
Really fucking great. Like, I feel like hardly anyone has seen the movie, but it's fucking really good. Really well acted, really well written and directed. I really like Taylor Sheridan. Like, when your first 3 movies you've written are fucking Sicario, Hell or High Water, and Wind River, dude, that's a pretty fucking nutty way to, like, dude, your first movie being Sicario?
That is also a very varied career.
Yeah, but man,
all 3 of those movies have nothing in common.
How fucking great is Sicario?
Oh,
I'm almost upset at us that we haven't covered that yet. That has been bumped up the short list because, man, Sicario is a fucking hell of a movie. But let's talk about the movie we came here to discuss this week, Ron. And since it was your selection, why don't you intro the movie we are talking about? And just real quick, again, if you want to send us any questions or prompts to be read at the beginning of the show, please email us screenplayrewind@gmail.com.
Is that screenplayrewind@gmail.com?
That is screenplayrewind you guessed it, gmail.com.
I heard a statistic recently that if you want people to remember something, you got to say it 3 times.
What if I say it 4 times? screenplayrewind@aol.com.
Oh no, that's the one that will stick. And it probably exists.
It probably does.
No, the movie that we are watching, the first time I saw it, I considered it a throwaway movie and turned it on in the background as I played a video game and ended up watching it more than I played the game and ended up just shutting down my computer and watching the movie, is The Ritual. A Netflix
so real quickly,
original.
What made it catch your eye? Does it have like a very striking image in the Netflix queue, like along the other movies? Or what caught your eye and made you want to throw this on the background?
So horror movies are real hit and miss. Most of the time, they're just comedies, right? And I don't know. I was just in the mood for that. I didn't have any podcasts going on, and I want to say, that the description on. I'm trying to log into Netflix real fast to get the description for it because it is fucking terrible. I want to say, and fucking up my password. And I don't know, it just looked like it was going to be real bad just based on 5 seconds of looking at what Netflix had to show me of it. And I just turned it on in the background and ended up staring at my screen and shutting down my computer and not playing my game. I cannot get my Ritual.
Yeah, Netflix is, I think, incredibly bad about the way that they try to tease you into watching their shit from the home screen. Because first of all, I still don't think to this day you can fucking turn off the autoplays, which is a travesty. Like, didn't it take Disney Plus like 2 months and you could turn off autoplays on shit and like the auto ads or whatever? And then Netflix, I think this day you still just, if you're scrolling over a thing, here's a fucking potentially spoiler-filled little teaser footage of just seemingly random clips strung together.
Yeah, and they're all like the worst thing that they can show you. The description on The Ritual is 4 friends with a long-standing but strained connection take a hiking trip into the Swedish wilderness from which they will never they may never return. And I was like, okay.
That was the most fucking phoned in description. That could apply to about 90% of horror movies.
Exactly. So
it is so. That could describe the Evil Dead, dude.
Yeah. So I was just like, all right, well, here's another terrible horror movie. And in my defense also, at this time, Netflix was making a ton of movies. I don't think this was what, 2017, 2018? I was not aware yet that they had started buying films that were destined for movie theaters. Like, I believe The Ritual came out in like British cinemas, but Netflix was the distributor in America or something. And I had no idea that they had that deal going on. And if it was a Netflix original, it tended to just be shit.
They're very hit or miss. The early seasons of House of Cards were incredible, and I think House of Cards being good at the beginning kind of gave everyone this kind of misconception that Netflix shit was good, when really it was just David Fincher and, the people making House of Cards in the beginning just happening to make a good show. It had nothing to do with it being on Netflix.
The fact that they hired talent and let that talent do their fucking job.
Yeah. And
not
then
necessarily
now,
that Netflix is an amazing studio.
They've kind of had like a bit of a resurgence. Like, there are some Netflix originals I watched that are pretty good. Like The Umbrella Academy is pretty good. There's a couple other ones I watch, but they're not.
Well, they made a bit of a resurgence because in order to compete, when COVID-19 hit, there was a lot of movies that were destined for movie theaters that just kind of like they weren't gonna see any return, so they took the easy cash of Netflix just writing them a check, and Netflix being the distributor instead of movie theaters. So like The Mitchells versus the Machines is one example. Supposed to go to theaters. That is technically a Netflix original.
It's because they're very specific about Bo Burnham's Inside has been a very good addition to their original content, but it makes for potentially really cool shit, like Bo Burnham stuff, and is it Mitchell's versus the Machines? Is that the name of it that you said?
Yes.
Like that, because what you can potentially get are these very, very good pieces of either documentaries, kind of like what Bo Burnham's thing kind of is. You can't really describe what a Bo Burnham special is, or like animated stuff, or horror. It can be just kind of like a hodgepodge of stuff that is potentially good, but just stuff they felt hard to market. If Mitchell's versus the Machines came out in theaters, it would probably be a bomb because it's just so very specific and hard to market. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just hard to market, and
it would have gone to
scary
theaters.
For theatrical release.
It would have gone to theaters. It would have been considered a failure, and then it would have found a cult following on streaming anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So they're just kind of cutting out the middleman and then removing the potentially negative reputation for the movie.
And if you've got something that is considered hard to market, do you throw the dice and go to theaters, or do you take the lump sum cash out of Netflix or Hulu or whoever, Amazon, writing you a check and handing it over to you? You got the sure thing. Or do we think we can actually beat this deal in theaters?
It's the Cloverfield paradox.
Oh no! Oh no!
Because that movie they knew was not going to go over that well.
And boy, they were right.
Yeah, and then they had that Super Bowl thing where they're just like, hey, the movie's going to be dropping right after the Super Bowl ends. One of the most incredible bits of marketing of all time. Yeah. The fucking numbers they probably got off of that evening.
How much do you think that cost? Because it was on the big game.
I mean, it's Netflix, they don't need money.
It was on the Superb Owl. So yeah.
I don't know. But
what were we talking about?
I fucking warn you all. We are talking about this entire fucking diatribe over Netflix's marketing happened because I asked what made you want to. I asked what made you want to watch The Ritual. Let's actually talk about the movie, though. So we talked a little bit about the description. We'll go into more detail once we actually start talking about it. We got to do the rundown. First name I'm going to give you is an SPR alum. Your director of The Ritual is David Bruckner. And without looking at the IMDb, Ron, do you know what thing that we have covered David Bruckner did?
What if I told you I've already looked at the IMDb?
Okay. Disregard the last 10 seconds of content, and we can continue. David Bruckner wrote and directed the car accident portion of Southbound. One of my favorite parts of that movie, if not my favorite, is that segment. I think it's great.
I didn't know he did the... Okay. That falls right in line with this fucking movie.
It really does.
The way that whole thing was shot, the way it was written.
Yeah, between his Southbound entry, between this, they're giving him Hellraiser, and fucking yes, please. I will watch the shit out of David Bruckner Hellraiser. He is perfect for that type of horror. That very kind of character-driven backstory angle is pure ritual. I think this is a great combo. Hopefully it doesn't go into development hell and just never comes out. It's currently listed for 2022, but I want that fucking movie to happen. Let's see. Oh, it's actually listed as being in post-production. Cool.
Ooh,
we might
so
actually have it happen. It might actually come out. He has a current movie out kind of on the festival circuit called The Night House, which I really want to watch. I'm trying to refrain from looking into it too much because I want to just kind of watch it without having the potential concepts and stuff spoiled for me. But he directed that. And yeah, I think he's just really talented, and I'm glad that, with Hellraiser, people are starting to realize the dude's talent and give him more projects, because I think he's fantastic. We have the writing credits for The Ritual. It was based off of a novel that came out in, I believe, 2011. The novel
That's a quick
was
turnaround for a book becoming a movie, by the way.
Very quick turnaround. I found that interesting because when I was looking through the research for it, I expected that book to have happened in like the 80s or like the 90s, and it was just one of those really great stories that just never really had the footing or the right person attached to kind of get it off the ground. But it was based off of a novel the same name by Adam Neville. Joe Barton wrote the screenplay to adapt it. And
do you know what he's writing now? Do you know what it says on his IMDb is announced that he is writing now?
What is that?
Untitled Cloverfield sequel.
The Cloverfield paradox. The Cloverfield question mark.
He also is apparently the one that gave us iBoy, but I'm not going to hold that against him after The Ritual.
Yeah, The Ritual's fucking great.
But I am interested to see if this is going to be the Cloverfield paradox situation, or if this is going to be like a 10 Cloverfield Lane situation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a Cloverfield movie by the guy that wrote The Ritual?
That
has potential.
Also, I looked up a little bit of the plot summary of the Ritual novel.
Uh-huh.
And unless the Wikipedia plot summary is just very light on details, or just very light on what the intro of the book is about, from what I could gather, the entire backstory of the friend dying was made up for the film, which is very bizarre because that's the backbone of the entire movie. Yeah, if you go and look at the plot description for the book, all it talks about is the four dudes going on the camping trip. And the reason they picked the place was because it was going to be a cheap vacation because one of their friends was very kind of down on his luck. Mm-hmm. And the story of the friend getting killed, spoilers for The Ritual.
What?
Yeah. Someone died in a horror movie. What the fuck? What? Yeah. And that adds all of the empathy and like all of the greatness behind because. And I'm divulging a little bit of what I like about the movie just in general, but we can talk about it just while we're on the subject of it. One of the hardest things to do in horror is to actually make people give a shit about your characters, because for the longest time, horror in general was created to pretty much have your characters be cannon fodder for Jason Voorhees or like Mike Myers, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Freddy. The people were there to intentionally just be slaughtered because it was a slasher. It's kind of interesting to see how horror eventually shifted from horror in the 60s and 70s to the slasher era and then now we have it's mostly kind of shifted back to like 60s and 70s because you have like your Jordan Peele's and your David Bruckners of the the stuff where they're trying to actually make legitimate horror that actually has a little bit of character to it. It's not just a movie filled with throwaway characters. There's actually time dedicated to fleshing them out. So yeah, I just found that very fascinating that if that is true and they came up with the entire backbone to the story, and the thing that I find most interesting about this movie is just how well integrated the character's backstory is into the plot, and it makes you actually give a shit right away about the main character. I find him a very sympathetic character.
So the thing that now makes more sense now that you've said that is Joe Barton is credited as the writer of the film, not adapting the screenplay or adapting the novel to screenplay, right?
Yeah.
So that I wonder just how significant his changes are from the book in general, if he's credited as the writer of the film and not being in charge of adapting it.
And some of it also could be David Bruckner,
right.
Because David Bruckner was a writer for both his VHS segment and the Southbound segment. So he isn't just a director; he is also a writer. Mm-hmm. So he could have had
changes on
conversation.
The fly.
They could have changed on the fly. They could have had conversations in post-production about kind of revamping what would become the driving force behind the characters. Mm-hmm. But it can be an instance where you can really influence a movie without getting credit. Just think about like all the screen, writers that have just been script doctors over the years,
right?
That can drastically change something, but because of the weird ass fucking WGA rules and shit, you never even know they fucking worked on it. Which is a shame, but you don't really know what. But whoever had the idea to make this focus solely around the friend getting killed at the beginning, I think was a genius, because I think it really lays the groundwork to actually giving a shit about the characters when usually you're just there to watch the people get killed by the giant fucking awesome monster in the woods, which we will fucking get to because it's awesome.
Yes.
Let's run down the cast real fast. Rafe Spall plays Luke. Archer Ali plays Phil. Robert James Collier plays Hutch. Sam Trotton plays Dom. And Paul Reed plays Robert. Those are your...
And all of them are fucking fantastic.
Yeah, they're very...
They could not have been cast better. They could not have portrayed their characters better. Perfect.
I think the writing and the performances to make these guys feel like real people is phenomenal.
Yes.
Because most of the time... characters in a horror movie, when they're kind of making like a half-assed attempt to flesh out the characters, they become just archetypes. But these guys feel like real fucking people who are just caught in a really shitty situation.
The thing that I really love the most about this movie is not the fucking Bloodborne monster. It is the characters. Because how many horror movies, and good horror movies, bad horror movies, great horror movies, how many horror movies are the characters almost an afterthought?
Yeah.
Because you just need fodder for your monster, your slasher, your whatever.
It's like fuel for the engine for the movie to run.
Usually, the low-budget stuff, it's usually just the straight-up archetype, right? The jock, the valley girl, all the archetypes you see.
See Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Entire movie about it.
And these characters, I mean, there's really nothing new about their archetypes. There's really nothing new about their backgrounds. There's really nothing new about the type of characters they are, their relationships. But it's all used so strategically and so well written. And you understand everyone's motivations. And they're so human, especially fucking which one?
Rafe Spall, Luke, the main guy.
Luke, especially, but the one that also I have like a whole mental paragraph about in my head. Which one is the one that twisted his knee? And
that's Dom.
Dom, okay.
Yes.
Dom is probably the tropiest character and one of the greatest characters the way he's written and used.
Yeah, he's very cantankerous to a way that you should outright hate him, but you don't really.
Yeah, there's I don't know how too far ahead we want to get since we're still in the casting, but that moment when he reveals how he holds Luke responsible.
Yeah,
like,
it's rough. It's rough, man.
And then later, he is reacting exactly the way Luke was, and Luke is actually being the thing that he said, why weren't you this type of person when the thing happens, when we get there? That turnaround, because you don't know how you'd react in a situation unless you're in that situation. You know how you think you might react, and it would be very easy. It'd be very easy to blame someone that was in Luke's situation for the loss of your friend. Yeah. You know, like, so everything makes sense. And then you have that turnaround, that realization where he's reacting exactly the way he held everything against Luke for. It's so great.
It's fucking great. Let's go. So let's dive in. We've covered, kind of the admin for the movie.
Yeah.
Let's dive in. And again, we're not going to go scene by scene with this because, you kind of had to with Buster Scruggs.
Yeah, it's not real necessary. I do. Before we get out of the credits, I do want to highlight Andrew Shulkind. I assume I'm getting that 100% correct. He is the cinematographer.
Okay.
And he also worked on Southbound. And I can only imagine which one it is, since our director worked on the Highway one.
I fucking bet he has him back because he's buddies with him for Hellraiser. And dude, I'm just fucking frothing at the mouth, dude. Oh my god, I want it.
Yes,
the way we're not gonna talk about it in detail, but the fucking liquor store in the woods is just
my god,
Jeff crack. It's so good. It's such an amazing concept of a scene. Fuck, I want to talk about it now, but we're gonna get to it.
That's a full on 8x8 for you right there,
dude. I fucking again. It's like him and Bruckner. I fucking wrote his Southbound segment. Just much more shitty. It's like we're on the same fucking wavelength, and they just got the better end of the talent. I don't know, dude. I don't know, man. It's frustrating, but it's also like it makes me like them so much because they just have this very specific way about their horror concepts that is just fucking Jeff crack. Another person I wanted to shout out to, the music is very good.
Ben Levitt was the other one I was going to shout out.
Yeah, Ben Levitt composed this. Man, you get sucked in with his... It's always usually very subtle, and I love that about it.
So since we're ready to dive in, the things that I wanted to say at the start of this is this movie takes heavy influence and heavy cues from two blockbuster movies. One we have covered, the other we have not, and it is considered the original blockbuster. I think this takes very heavy cues from Alien and from Jaws.
Agreed, on all accounts.
And the biggest lesson it takes from both of those films, the one through line in those two films, I'm trying to say, is less is more. And that is the thing, aside from the characters themselves and how they're utilized, I love the most about this fucking movie. But you also get the satisfaction of seeing the goddamn monster, just like you finally see the shark or you finally see the xenomorph, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. It is... Everything in this movie is masterclass about the way it's filmed and the way it's written and the way it's portrayed.
And it's interesting in how... I'm glad that you brought this up because it's very specific character building that it brings from each of the blockbusters, but in different aspects of it. Like from Alien, what it kind of continues through is the believability of the characters. You know, like you and I went on about how all the fucking characters, the space truckers, feel like real fucking people.
Be honest, Jeff. When we covered Alien, we just went on. We didn't go on about any specific thing.
That's
we just
true.
Went on.
Then we have like 4 hours of content for Alien, and we could probably do it all over again with another 4 hours.
We covered the first 3 movies in that time.
Can we get to Prometheus? Just because I want to talk about the fucking 2 scientist dipshits that are you and me. Can we just cover Prometheus next week? Can we just do that? I want to do that really
it's your
bad.
Pick.
Shit. I already have my Halloween spectacular idea picked, but we will be covering Prometheus at some point because I have to talk about that scene, dude. I have to.
That's totally
that's
how
the
you
next
and I would
spinoff.
go out in a movie.
That's the spinoff. We just cover Prometheus every week for a year. Oh God, what were we talking about? Okay. The ritual. That's the thing we were talking about. So that's what it takes away from the character building of Alien. And what it takes away from Jaws is making them have a very, very peculiar and believable interaction with one another.
Yes.
Because, all Jaws is for the first 75% of it is the dudes talking on the boat. And it's the clash of their personalities that builds the story and builds attention, actually makes you care about the characters. And there's a lot of that DNA here in the ritual because, man, within the first 5 minutes, now we're going to talk about it right now. What makes me, my favorite performance in the movie is probably Rafe Spall as Luke. Yes. I think that just the pain that he has on his face at times, as he's clearly trying to deal with this guilt that he has.
Also, shout out for his name being spelled the way it sounds. Fucking Rafe Fiennes, come on. Get with the fucking program.
Get with the fucking program, Voldemort.
I get what your parents did. You didn't have to go with it. You could have picked a screen name spelled exactly like it sounds. Also, by the way, I just
Ralph, who must not be named.
I just now noticed this. Rafe Spall is in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Oh, okay. Oh, I remember him in that now.
I don't.
Eli
Mills is his character name.
I want to say he needs to be in more shit. He's fucking amazing in this.
Yes,
he's fucking awesome. Like, he is legitimately great. The amount of guilt that he has just on his face as he's dealing with this guilt without trying to show it to his friends is very great. The basic plot line.
In Hot Fuzz too. I was trying to think if we had Rafe Spall cast in like the MCU or a presumably good DC project, what would you cast him as? Villain or hero? Doesn't matter.
Oh, it's tough.
He's able to show and hide pain, but I don't know if we're typecasting at that point.
Yeah, I think he's so versatile that there's a lot of different ways you could go with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just leave that up to Kevin Feige. You'll
As
find
we
something.
Apparently should.
Yeah, you'll find something amazing for him. You'll figure it out. Kevin Feige will figure it out in post. That's what he does. Now let's break down the basic plotline of the movie.
Okay.
So this movie opens up with these four, at this time 5 friends at a little pub, and they're
there's some foreshadowing for you. We start out with 4. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 at this time.
Yeah.
At this point in the movie.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They're at a pub. Are they in like London? I don't remember if they say, but they're in England.
They say, but they're definitely in like England or at least the UK.
Yeah, somewhere over there.
The thing that is immediately apparent in this opening scene to me is the thing that is immediately apparent with the crew of the space truckers in Alien, which is they clearly have a history, and there's no need to go into it. Like, it's safe to assume they've probably been friends since like high school or whatever in England. I know it's primary school, secondary school. Forget what they call high school, but
I believe they end up confirming them all as old college buddies.
And
all these characters are kind of, early to mid 40s ish.
Right.
So they've been friends for, 20 years. And when you are actually, when you keep it, and then that's an important detail too, because when you're at this age, and you have a family, you're in your mid 40s. If you manage to maintain friendships with these people, it's because they're important to you. 90% of the people that you knew in high school, you are no longer in contact with. And that's just part of growing up. You drift away from people. So the fact that they've kept in touch after, 20, 25 years because they were buddies in university, it's very important, very pivotal that these guys, they're genuinely friends with each other. Like you said, they have a history, and that's what makes it so tragic. So Luke, the main character, ends up, when they're all leaving the pub and they're kind of, going their separate ways, he has a bit of a drinking problem because even though they've been at the pub clearly for several hours, he wants to make a stop at the liquor store, to get some vodka on the way home. So he's trying to talk all the rest of the buddies, into going into the liquor store with him. They all say, like, fuck that, I'm going home. the one person ends up agreeing to go in with him into the liquor store, and it's presumably, like 2:00 in the morning, because they just pretty much closed down the pub, is his buddy, Rob.
Luke will remember this.
Yeah. So he goes in the liquor store with his buddy. He goes in the back to find the vodka, and they realize right after he picks up the vodka off the shelf that something is horribly wrong, because the cashier is huddled, has been physically injured, right as a couple dudes that are robbing the liquor store walk out and then see Luke and Rob. They immediately, are up to no good. They're robbing the store. A couple that I don't think they have. Do they have a gun, or is it just they have melee weapons? I can't remember if they have a gun or not.
One's got like an aluminum baseball bat, and one's got like a fucking machete or something.
Something like that. So Luke, because he's standing a little bit further back, hides behind a aisle, and doesn't he actually make the noise that makes the robbers notice Rob too?
Yes,
I want to say
yes. When he hits the end of the shelving, the bottles jingle jangle.
Yeah, and then the guys who are robbing the liquor store look over, notice Rob. They approach him. They mug him. Rob agrees to give him everything but his wedding ring. He says, no, you can't have that. At this time, Luke is constantly looking at his, and the fact that they have melee weapons is an important detail, because what Luke has in his hands is the vodka bottle, and he's holding it by, upside down, he's holding it by the neck, because he's contemplating trying to go and help his friend as he's being mugged. At this time, as he's contemplating, he kind of freezes, and the guy who has the bat hits Rob over the head and cracks his skull and kills him. So this becomes the kind of driving force for the film, because I believe 6 months pass, and what we didn't touch on was, as they were about to enter the liquor store, I believe they were having conversations about what their upcoming kind of bro hangout was going to be about.
Yeah, it becomes apparent that they apparently travel together a lot. That they go on various adventures together, like across the world. And our boy Robert here wanted to possibly go hiking in Sweden.
Yep.
And everyone else is like, fuck you.
Most other guys are just kind of like, why wouldn't we fucking go to Vegas? And they're kind of that kind of party, or not the hiking type. So it's 6 months have passed, and as a tribute to Rob, what they've elected to do is the four buddies are going to actually go and complete the hike in Sweden. Is it in Sweden? I can't remember the.
It's in Sweden.
Yes, Sweden. Okay. They elect to go and complete this hike through a very specific trail as a tribute for Rob. And there's obviously, as soon as they arrive there, tension between the friends. They're not as buddy as they once were. The one person who's kind of trying to keep the peace between everyone is Hutch.
One of my favorite characters.
So Hutch is pretty much the kind of impromptu leader of the he's kind of, he's following the map. He has the compass. He's kind of trying to keep the peace between the friends. He goes and tells at one point early on in the film, he goes and tells Luke, it's impossible to blame you for that. He says he doesn't hold it against him. And it's what's shitty too is what adds to the, obviously you would feel terrible about it if you were Luke, you would blame yourself for it. But had he gone out to initiate a fight, hindsight, being 2020, what happened. But him going out to try to protect him by using the vodka bottle could have been a thing that got Rob killed. He didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It also could have turned into a double homicide. Yeah,
and it very well could have led to him dying too, and not just Rob. So, they don't know what would have happened had he stepped in, but, there's clearly tension where, Hutch says he doesn't blame him. You can kind of tell by the way that Dom treats and speaks to Luke that he clearly is no longer on, good terms with Luke. But so all of this drama between them as and it's mostly unspoken, which leads to just how good the acting is. A lot of it is unspoken. It's just the way they interact.
Yes.
You know, it's just the looks they give each other. It's the tone they have when speaking to one another is
the
great.
awkward silences between them as they walk and stuff.
Even when they're actually when they first arrive, they get to like the top of like a hill, and they place in like a couple of possessions of Rob's. They pass around a flask, and then pour one out for Rob. Even at the little tribute they have for their friend, it's very awkward, and I think that's captured very well by the.
It shouldn't have happened. That was one of the lines I think that Dom, I believe, says, and Luke just immediately looks to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they have completed their tribute to Rob. What they have left to do is they're meeting up at this like kind of resort building, right, on the opposite side of this trail.
Lodge, yeah.
Yeah, at a lodge. And
the trip is along. I don't even dare try to pronounce this. The Kungsleden, Kungsleden. It's an actual trail in northern Sweden.
Is it actually?
It's
real
an actual
thing?
trail
I didn't know
that you can
That's cool.
go down.
I will not be doing it.
It translates to the King's Trail.
Okay.
And
Not the Bloodborne Monster Trail.
Right. Well,
they should rename that. That's big missed opportunity. They should really, tap into that.
Well, he's not on the trail, right? That's the problem that we're going to run into in a minute.
Yeah. So very shortly after they have the tribute, kind of little send off to their buddy. Dom, really, really messes up his knee. He says, done it before. I've torn my meniscus. The guys kind of don't really believe him because Dom can be a bit of a drama queen. He's kind of very.
Which,
like I said earlier, he's just
friends, kind of among friends that know each other as well as they do. That again, believable reaction to everything that is happening, and they're not wrong because later, like everything that's going on, he is playing up the drama a bit too much. But later, you find out he's actually right about his knee when you see how many colors it changes to.
Yeah, it's just he's an asshole, but he's their asshole.
He's an asshole. He's an asshole.
Yeah. And after he gets injured, they're trying to figure out a shortcut, to get to the lodge as quickly as possible because he can't walk for very long, and they can't really carry him. And they elect to have the single worst idea you could possibly have in the scenario by coming up with this direct shortcut through the fucking woods in Sweden.
I like the quote that the dude has where someone he knows said that if a shortcut was a shortcut, it wouldn't be called a shortcut, it'd be called a trail.
Yeah, it'd be called a route.
Yeah, it'd be called a route.
Line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that quote.
As soon as he says that, you're just like, thank you.
Yes. And also, I was going to point out, Jeff, anytime that you hear about hikers being found, mountain climbers being found, dead or alive, but they go missing or there's a problem, what is usually the first thing you hear about the group?
What's that?
They went off trail.
Oh, yeah.
Like almost every time.
It's so common sense.
Yeah.
But it's also believable because
you can see the lodge, and you can see it goes right through these woods. You aiming right at the lodge,
and people never think it's going to happen to them.
Exactly.
People, and this is clear as fucking day in the climate we fucking live in today. People do not think X, Y, or Z bad thing will happen to them. It's just an abstract thing that happens to other people on the fucking news until it happens to you, and it's too late.
You're the one on the 10 o'clock news.
And yeah. And it's when they, start going through this quote unquote shortcut that the horror movie happens. So what's the first thing you want to talk about in the kind of just the gist of the movie?
I think it's incredible how captivating this movie is and it's like, I don't know, 45 minutes before anything starts happening. It's just the characters.
This movie is what the Blair Witch Project wants to be when it grows up.
Never saw it.
Because what this movie kind of picks up on that Blair Witch type of horror where it's, you're lost in the fucking woods and you're just fucked and you can't even figure out which fucking direction to go. You feel like you're going in circles. That kind of open world claustrophobia almost.
So,
it's kind of a
I'm glad that you said
isolation.
the word claustrophobia and isolation, especially for what I'm about to lead into. The only other two movies I've seen that handles claustrophobia and isolation as well as they do, besides this one, is Alien and Jaws.
Yeah.
Different types of claustrophobia, different types of... One is very physical, one is very metaphorical, because in Jaws, fucking Brody, man. Poor Brody. It's a metaphor, the claustrophobia and isolation, but that's exactly what is happening to him and how he feels with all the characters, because no one will fucking listen to the one guy saying the thing they need to do is shut down the goddamn beaches. And
Right.
it is very literal in Alien, because they're trapped on this spaceship. The thing could be anywhere at any time. You don't know where. You know it's using the ventilation to move around. And the tension and the way that plays in. And in this movie, you've got a little bit of both of that, the metaphor and the physically, realistically, isolation and claustrophobia. They're in a fucking forest, out in the open, hiking on the side of a mountain, and this movie is so goddamn claustrophobic. I don't understand how they did that. They couldn't be in a bigger open place. And it is so claustrophobic in the way things are handled. And I love the detail that one of the very first things, it's either Dom or Phil, I don't remember, as they're walking into the woods, you already feel like something is off as they're walking in, but you don't notice what it is. It's the same thing they did in Infinity War, actually, and Endgame both. One of them says, "Does it seem really quiet to you? Like there's no birds.
Yeah, you almost
insects.
don't hear anything.
Yeah,
it's such a great fucking mix with the sound editing.
I don't know if you've ever noticed, but in Infinity War, right after the Thanos snap, they quit all background noise. There's no birds chirping. There's no insects. There's no nothing, and it gives this really eerie feel to it. And in Endgame, it's that way the entire time until the Hulk snap. And then you start hearing the background noises again.
That's cool.
And that is a thing that you just hear. Like, things don't seem realistic in movies without the background chatter, right? And your brain picks up on that when that's not there, because not only is that not natural, every movie you ever watch has that background chatter. And it's not present in this movie from the time they enter the woods until they leave the woods. The entire time they're in the woods, there is no background chatter. It's just dead silence.
Also, adding to your point, it was such... this is a huge budget production, and the fact that they have 15 people credited for the sound department tells you a lot.
Right? The
just the amount of attention to detail they had to have with what you hear versus what you don't, and all of that. Man, it must have been a fucking hell to edit all that out, because when you're just recording in the fucking woods, usually it's hard to hear the people talk because all you hear is the fucking ambient noise of the fucking woods.
Right.
So it's just like everyone just crushing it in the production.
There's this sense of uneasiness from the moment they walk in the woods, and you don't, as the viewer, don't understand why you feel this way. It's just four dudes walking through some trees.
Yeah.
I mean, this is obvious. This is obvious where shit's going to start happening, right? You know that as an audience member. But you don't know why you're already feeling this impending sense of dread until literally it's either Phil or Dom. Like I said, I don't remember. I'm probably wrong on both counts, but says, "Does this seem really quiet to you?" And then you're like, "Oh, fuck, it is." And that's what it is. That's what's going on. And the way they use the silence, Jeff. So eventually we're going to cover Jaws. It's on my list. We have to. It's the original blockbuster. But
it's fucking Jaws. A
thing happened in Jaws that led to them not having a fucking shark in the movie. And the legend is when John Williams presented the score to Steven Spielberg, Spielberg was like, "Really? Are you serious?" And John Williams' response was, "This is your shark." That is the monster in the movie, right? That's the monster in Jaws. in this movie, take that lesson, but replace it instead of music. It's dead silence. You're immersed in dead silence for several minutes at a time. And then while everyone's sitting and resting and talking, you start hearing limbs snap in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That is your monster through the most of this movie, is the sound of limbs snapping.
And can we also just talk about, as far as the cinematography, how
the Uncharted 2 moment?
One of my favorite fucking tropes in horror is when you're looking at a thing and you don't realize you're looking at a thing until it moves away.
Yes.
And they do that.
Did you back it up?
Yes, every time I backed it up. Every time it happens in this movie, because it's so fucking good and unnerving. A lot of movies so well disguised.
A lot of movies cheat where it's not there and then it's there as it passes by and it's gone again. This movie, once you see it, if you back it up, it's there the entire fucking time you're looking at it.
The fingers on the tree, man. Mm-hmm. Man, that scene's good. Because you're just like, is that what I think it is?
Yeah.
But it's eerily still, is that what I think it is? And then the fingers like unwrap from the tree in the background. You're just like, oh shit, that is exactly what I thought I was seeing. And you're freaked the fuck out. That
wide shot, as the four of them are starting to climb up this hill, and in the background you just see it turn and walk away.
God, it's so good.
That, I was like, okay, they took a lesson from Uncharted 2 with the fucking Yeti in the foreground. Yeah. Oh my God, man. It's so good. And if you back it up, it's standing there the entire time in the daylight. You can fucking see every detail of it, but it wasn't moving. It was just standing there watching them and you didn't notice it.
It's so good.
Hey, is this movie Moose Jaws? Can I just put that out there? Is this the movie Kevin Smith's been talking about making for years? Is this Moose Jaws?
I think they beat him to it because
I think they beat him to it. He waited too long.
Yep.
Too stoned. He didn't get on it fast enough.
He did not. Been too busy making Clerks 3, I think.
Yeah. Let's talk about the creepy cabin. I want to talk about the cabin in the woods.
This might have the creepiest cabin in the woods.
Can we talk about movie. Phil? Can we just jump right to Phil? Poor Phil.
Yeah. Poor Phil.
Dude, it's not funny. It's not funny. But I watched this movie 3 times, and 3 times I have burst out laughing. Guys, get the fuck up here!
I love how
the idol.
I love that their reactions and the way that they are sarcastic, just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like, their reactions are so Ron and Geoff if they were in this situation.
Dude, Phil walks up, he sees this creepy ass idol made somewhat in the likeness of this thing, and he stares at it for a moment like, what the fuck am I looking at? And then just yells, guys, get the fuck up here! And they all come running. And I just, like I said, it's not meant to be funny, but it kind of is. I've burst out laughing at that every time I've watched this movie. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're just separate levels of nope are very good. I appreciate that about how they're having the appropriate reaction to their stupid ass decisions. You know, they're just like, what the fuck is happening? Nope, do not want. I would have slept out in the fucking rain, by the way. Like, give me fucking hypothermia instead of the fucking Moose Jaws mural upstairs. Like, fuck that, dude. Yeah. The way that they wake up in the morning after the cabin is fucking terrifying. Dude. So they wake up after this torrential fucking hurricane thunderstorm overnight.
It's Jurassic Park rain is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And they wake up. Luke has been having this, and let's go ahead and I think this is the first time they introduced this theme and this scene concept that reoccurs throughout the film. So whenever they're going to sleep, this is usually a time where they have a sequence of Luke coming to terms with his grief as far as he blames himself for the death of Rob. And the way that they do this is as he's out here in the woods, whether they're, it's when they're just out in the middle of the woods, or if it's when he's, walking outside of the cabin into it, but he constantly is walking into and seeing the liquor store. But the liquor store is not just the liquor store. It's physically integrated into the woods to the point to where at one point I think it's actually still the liquor store floor, but then it transforms into where it's like the liquor store shelves on top of like the ground in the woods. You know, there's actually branches and shit in the ground. It's just so cool.
I think the first time they do it, it's like the liquor store. Everything is spot on. It's got the walls, the ceiling, the lights, everything. But the ground is the forest ground. I think the first time, and then as it goes throughout the movie, it's like the walls disappear and it's just the shelving and stuff. Eventually, it's just like the lighting. They're slowly stripping it away. Now, the insinuation is that the Yotun or whatever is doing this, right? Is bringing these visions up.
Yes. Well, it ends up becoming the reasoning
it
behind
targets people with incredible amounts of guilt is what we get later, right?
Yeah, and they have a little signifier of this because as he wakes up after this, kind of night terror of him reliving the fucking, night that his friend had been killed right in front of him, he wakes up and he has these 5, it's almost like a circular shape of punctures in his chest. There's like 5 punctures arranged in a circle in like the left side of his chest, and he's just like, what the fuck is happening? Because he doesn't see what or who had done this to him. He just wakes up in this state in the middle of the fucking woods. So he heads back to the woods and he finds is it Hutch that had pissed himself as he was sleeping. I can't Dom I think is just screaming for his life off in the corner of the room.
And for his wife, he's screaming Gail's name.
Yeah, and they don't know where Phil's at, and Phil's not making a sound, so they're just like, where the fuck is Phil? So they instantly run upstairs and they find him completely naked, just kneeling before the mural that they had seen. And did we explain what it kind of looked like? How it has like antlers above this, like just very bizarre kind of.
It's wearing a ghillie suit, and it has
it's real weird. It's
antlers
real
for
weird.
hands or something raised up above its head. And then there's a shot when it zooms out that those are mummified human feet hanging out the bottom, right?
I believe that is the thing they're getting at. Yeah,
insinuation. Yeah.
They look like Dark Souls. Take a drink. Hollow feet, like the beef jerky people. That's what it kind of looks like.
You know what just hit me since you said that? Dark Souls 3, the bodies that are turning into trees. Very reminiscent of the imagery being invoked here by this Wicker Man.
Yeah, it's true. Now that could be just gathered from, because this is clearly very Norse inspired.
Yes.
So both this and FromSoft could have just been drawing from aspects of Norse.
No, I understand that. And Dark Souls 3 came out in 2016. This released in 2017 in the UK, so this was already made when Dark Souls 3 came out.
And had been written.
I'm not drawing anything there. I'm just saying it's very, very interesting these came out at the same time. They have very similar imagery.
Yeah, very similar symbology on the just kind of becoming one with nature almost, which is very integral with the themes later with the cult. So from here, they are in absolute, and rightfully so, just pure fucking panic mode. So they're just like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. And Dom is just being incredibly irascible at this point, and he pretty much walks out of the lodge and says he just pretty much willy-nilly picks a route, and he says, this kind of looks like a route, I'm fucking taking it. He's kind of done with their shit, and he starts walking, and then they start following him because he's their buddy, and they're just like, I think this is a bad idea, but they don't know what else to do because fucking Dom is such an asshole. It's hard to, even with a fucked up leg, it's hard to control his ass,
Yeah.
So they just start following him this fucking route, and as they're, going on the way, worse and worse shit starts to happen to them. So what was your first reaction to Hutch being the first one of them to die? I thought that was a very cool little twist to where you think because he's pretty much the leader, you would expect him to be maybe not the last person to live, but one of the last people still alive, and he's the fucking first person to get it.
It feels like the movie is really focusing on Hutch and Luke, so you kind of think that they're the two that are going to make it by the time this is over, and then he's the first one to go. I mean, he talked about his daughters. If he hadn't talked about his daughters, he might have lived. But horror movie tropes,
sin.
you can't talk about the family.
Man, you want to talk about a scene that fucking gut punches you? Is when
people in the 80s?
But when Hutch fucking tells him, after Luke confronts him again, like, do you blame me?
Yo.
And he just says, man, I don't know.
Which is a real human reaction. I mean, that's a valid feeling to have.
It's also incredibly fucked up to say, especially after you had just a couple days earlier, if not like the fucking day before, told him you don't blame him. Very fucked up, but they're all just unhinged because of what happened in the cabin.
It's not technically a lie either, because if he doesn't know, if he can't figure out his feelings on the thing, he's technically not blaming him. Like, it's true. It's a very, like I said, it's a very human thing. Can I also just say that I love the jump 6 months forward with them already on the trail. We don't have to go through the funeral. We don't have to see the family. We don't have to see everyone just beating up on Luke at the thing, or the way everybody's eyeing him at the funeral. We don't have to deal with any of that. We just jump right in, assuming that's all happened 6 months later. Like,
and it's also cool.
That's a very deliberate decision that I appreciate.
And it also deliberately condenses the cast, because by doing that, it allows you to purely be focusing on this group of friends.
Yes.
You don't introduce additional family members. You don't. It's just about these friends dealing with the trauma of their friend dying.
This whole thing, I just realized, you have said this before in previous episodes, is just another lesson in addition through subtraction, right?
Yeah. If you can make your story as lean and to the point as possible, it's like, it's one of the oldest kind of writing 101 tips. Start as close to the rising action as humanly possible, and you will usually have a better story for it.
This movie is 94 minutes, Jeff.
It's not
nothing 2 hours,
but rising action until the last like 20 minutes.
And like the first half of the movie is the character development of the friends and the backstory.
And it's such a good introduction to them.
Yeah.
That like 5-minute segment of them being friends at the pub, and then what happens at the liquor store, and then that jump cut, like you said, to them reacting awkwardly around each other to their little, additional send-off for Rob. Which, it tells you all of the character building you need to know for all of them.
And that jump cut makes it that much more striking, right? It highlights that tension, because they were all buddy laughing, going out for drinks, and that is all dead. That all died with Rob. You can tell when we jump 6 months straight from there that it's a real stark contrast. So this movie, they could have easily tried to drag this out to like 2.5 hours if they wanted to. 94 minutes is a choice, and it's one that I appreciate.
Probably one of the reasons I like horror so much in general is that so much of it is based around, cutting the fat from the story.
Well, a lot of them have such a low budget because horror is one of the cheapest movies you can make, depending on what you're doing. If you're making a slasher, you just, give a dude a machete and a fucking Captain Kirk mask, and you're off to the races.
Or, have 55,000 pounds of blood.
Yeah.
And Bruce Campbell, and you get the Evil Dead,
Yeah.
You can do a lot with little, and I just like how like laser focused good horror is. Like The Thing doesn't have fat on the bone. There is not a single moment wasted in that movie. Every single thing is critical. Every single thing flows, and fucking hell, I want to watch The Thing now. And it's October again, so I have an excuse to.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be burning through some Alien movies.
Yeah,
as well as The Thing.
Man, can we just talk about how I am completely dead inside all year until October pulls around, and it's like, God, I love this time of year. Gives me an excuse to just watch a whole bunch of fucking horror movies all month. I love this time of the year.
The Thing and Alien are in my Halloween rotation pretty much every year. I'm thinking The Ritual is being added to that.
It's fucking great, and man, and
it's atmospheric horror, which we don't get much of.
this movie goes by so fast.
Yeah.
When I was taken aback by just how fucking awesomely paced this is, because I felt like I had watched a 30-minute episode of TV instead of a 90-minute movie by the time it was over, because it's so engaging, and because of the good character development, you're instantly invested. And most of the time you are not in horror. Most of the time it takes them a while if they ever get you to the point of being sympathetic to their characters,
Can we also talk about this? Neither one of us have really mentioned this. It builds so much tension when it wants to, and then it releases all of that for you, and you get your break, and then the tension starts ramping up again. It doesn't bring up the tension and hold it there, so you're not exhausted when you're done watching it. And, it just is, again, not to keep saying this over and over, just a masterclass in releasing tension and then bringing the audience back to being tense again. I don't know. That's another thing that The Thing and Alien both do very, very well.
Yeah.
Because this thing is stalking them during the day, but it's only really coming at them at night. And because it seems to use sleep to attack them for the most part. And during the day scenes is when you see, it just turn and walk away in the background. You didn't know it was there, and a lot of those type moments. And then at night, you start hearing limbs and tree limbs snap, and that's literally the only sound in the entire fucking forest. And that sense of dread, just hearing that first snap, when Luke whips his head around in the direction and shines his flashlight that way, and you're just, oh fuck, as soon as you hear that first limb snap.
I fucking love how they just have the monster grab one of the characters, and it happens so fast and it happens so viciously that it's almost like you can't even tell what the hell just happened. Yeah, the way that they get,
we thought we heard something, yoink.
Yeah, it's almost like they get grabbed by a fucking kaiju. It's so. It could be, even though they're barely showing you any of it, it gives it such size and screen presence. It's fucking crazy. And again, off all really low budget, it's really well done. They really make the most out of every fucking dollar in this movie. Let's talk about the monster.
Yes.
I was fucking stunned that they showed you the monster.
I was,
because
too.
I thought what this was gonna be, and I would not have had an issue with them never showing it, because that feeds into that type of horror,
mystery.
That type of
fear of the unknown
thing, fear of the unknown, of how your imagination will always be scarier than anything you see. And if this movie had never shown the monster, I would have been fine, because it doesn't really need to, because it's not the point of the movie. But the fact that they're so confident in this incredible character design, they just fucking show it to you, and they end up showing it to you kind of in the daylight, is so cool and so unexpected. It's a fucking. Now it's almost a meme on this show now, but it is from Soft Caliber. Yeah. It is it would be one of the best character designs of a boss in a FromSoft title, which is high praise, because they have some of the coolest character design in fiction.
Yeah.
It's so I don't even know how to begin fucking describing it.
It's a moose from hell. It's bigger than a moose, but its body is roughly the same shape. Its legs almost look like it's made of trees. It's got moose-like antlers on the top. And instead of a moose head and jaws, it's got an upside down person wearing a hoodie, and it's got the glowing Jawa eyes and the hands.
Yeah, but it never fully they kind of have their cake and eat it too, because the moose aspect of it is shown to you and is revealed, but the person shadowy figure thing is never really shown in that much detail.
Yeah.
It's just those creepy eyes in the dark.
The Jawa.
Yeah.
The dink, dink, dink. It's really weird that it kept singing that.
Ding, 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 ding.
As it's
ding,
like
ding.
hanging people on trees. Dink, dink, dink.
Ritual the lunchbox. Ritual the flamethrower.
The kids love this one.
The kids love this.
Dude, one of the most striking images in the entire movie to me is in like the last 5 minutes of the movie when Luke has just set the mummy cabin on fire, and
We have to talk about that.
we have to talk about the living mummies.
Yes.
But he sets that whole thing. I love his reaction when he sets them up. We'll talk about it in a minute. But that cabin is burning, and it's the only light in the area. Now, Jeff, how many horror movies have you watched where there is lighting like that, and the shadows being cast are still obscuring most of the detail of the monster?
Pretty much all of them.
Pretty much all of them. And while it is slightly obscured, it's not exactly in silhouette. The amount of detail that you can see when Luke stops and turns around to see what he's been dealing with this whole time. The amount of detail that you can see in this full body thing, and it's almost the size of the cabin. And height, at least. Like, Jesus Christ, dude, that red and that orange from the fire lighting up the whole clearing, but yet there's enough light, it's standing close enough to the flames that you can see pretty much every detail of the monster at a distance.
It's like 1917 caliber lighting at times. It's fucking crazy.
It's
and
like,
just
yeah,
like the,
it's like
the
that
CGI.
scene from, it's like that scene from 1917 with that whole building that is the beacon in the middle of the area. Yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah, it's you know, it's in World War I when they were moose creatures.
And I love that his reaction after staring in awe is to pull out the rifle and put a single shot into it.
Man, that's so fucking awesome, dude. You just know it's not gonna fucking work, but it's just like, man, fucking kudos for trying. Pretty baller move, dude.
Before we move on, we should also mention that the one poor lady that shows mercy to him in at least as much as she can just kind of casually drops that this is a god that is the bastard offspring of Loki.
So, dude, I fucking love Norse shit. So when they said that, I was like, this is metal as fuck, and I love it.
Immediately inferring that Norse mythology is fucking real in the ritual universe.
Man, it's so cool. And
my
that
God.
that it's real to this scary degree. And it's that dark.
So I have on Audible the Neil Gaiman book, Norse Mythology, which I recommend to anyone, especially the audiobook, because Neil Gaiman
Very good.
Fucking narrates it.
I think
himself.
it's Gaiman. I think it's
Gaiman?
Neil Gaiman.
I've heard it both ways. I don't fucking know. But he narrates it himself, and that could just be his job for all I care. He's so good at it.
What pisses me off is that not only was Neil Gaiman blessed to be a great writer, he's also a great narrator. It's like, come on, man.
Great. No, it's not auteur. It's what's the fucking word I'm looking for? The people that are great with their voice is a specific word.
I'm tired.
I am too.
Sorry. I can't help you, bud. But yeah, he's just fucking great at everything. And fuck you, Neil Gaiman. You fucking overachiever. I love you.
The whole point of the book that he lays out at the beginning is he loved Norse mythology. He grew up reading it and listening to it and consuming as much of it as he could. But most of it is like written like a college textbook, and that's the turnoff and why he thinks most people don't study it. So he just Neil Gaiman'd it up while trying to keep it as accurate to the original stories as he possibly could. And in one of the specific stories, I don't remember which one, I think it's the one with the builder building the wall for the Aesir, like Odin and them building the wall around Asgard, which is when he presents one of his children to Odin. It's a horse with 6 legs. It's the horse that Odin is known to ride. But I think it's that one when Thor leans in to Baldur or someone and just goes, "You ever notice that all of Loki's children are just fucking monsters? Why are they all horrible monstrosities?" And they're just like, I
don't fucking know.
But all of his children, like, dude, Hel and fucking Jormungandr and Fenrir are just all children of Loki, and they're all monsters. And so just casually dropping that this thing is an offspring, a bastard child of Loki. Which, is that what gets her killed? Is that why it targets her?
So her death to me seems to just be kind of random. Like it just seems to me like
you think
the
it
monster
just
was
killed her out of frustration. It just
I think it was
someone?
just frustrated at like what was happening. I don't think it was targeted. I think she was just the closest person in the path, and he was feeling very murdery at that time.
Because she's the one. The mercy I mentioned is when she cups his ears and tells him it'll be over soon, so he doesn't have to listen to Dom screaming.
Yeah, so there's a cult dedicated. We didn't really elaborate on it to anyone who has not seen the movie, but the cult that they stumble upon when they're going down the path that Dom had picked out for them. Fucking Dom, good job, buddy.
Dom.
Fucking Dom.
I don't give a shit, Dom, if you live your life a quarter mile at a time. All right, I live it a full mile at a time. Slow your fucking roll.
Yeah, they come across this fucking cult that worships the moose jaws. And,
what have I done?
Yeah,
this totally changes this movie for me.
You blew it up, you maniac. And what's really cool is the twist. Okay, they worship this deity, bastard child of Loki, because it gives them all immortality. But the cost that comes with immortality is amazing. Because the main character, after he busts out of his, the last two people right here that are left are Dom and Luke, because Phil and Hutch got just instantly fucking murdered at one point by
the Hutched is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, impaled on trees.
As you did.
At least Phil did, because Moose Jaws loves his ornament.
Also, something I expect to find walking through Bloodborne and Dark Souls: just bodies pinned to trees.
Exactly, and it's down to them two. They're going to be ritually sacrificed. They're saving Luke for last because they want Luke to be integrated into their cult because of his amount of grief that he has over the death of Rob. That is why he was marked. He was kind of chosen with the 5 puncture wounds we talked about earlier. So they ritually sacrifice Dom to it. And a really heartbreaking thing where he actually sees like a vision of his wife.
Dude, that cut? Oh my god!
Oh, it's fucked up, dude. It's fucked up, man. Yeah. Sucks. R.I.P. Dom.
R.I.P. Dom. Now I have a question. Is this in the same category as the dude in Aliens that redeems himself at the end? Does Dom redeem himself?
Dom or Luke?
Dom. Does he redeem himself?
I think he does, because he has so
when if you get out of here, you burn this whole place to the fucking ground and all that.
Yeah, because he has a scene where he tells him, like, I've seen it, you're gonna make it out of here, you're burn all to the ground, but I'm not, and he's just kind of content with that. He tells him to send a message to his wife because he's not gonna make it. Luke's adamant, you're gonna make it, you're gonna make it. Because what we didn't really elaborate too much on is after Hutch, the typical leader of the group, gets killed first, it's all on Luke because Phil and Dom are just in panic mode. Mm-hmm. It's all up to Luke. Luke really,
that's
all
also
of them
when we start piecing together that their dreams were how they die as well.
Yeah.
Because they start talking about the shit that they've seen, and it's all kind of playing out.
All of them end up dying, but I think Luke 1000% redeems himself in just how much he tries.
Yes.
Because as Dom is about to be ritually sacrificed, Luke has been constantly trying to get out of his restraints, and he ends up doing the fucking movie thing where you dislocate your fucking thumb to get out of the handcuffs.
That sound design.
Can you?
My hand still hurts from watching this movie.
I like Ron. I love you, but if you're about to be ritually sacrificed, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. I don't know if I'd be able to just the willpower to purposefully dislocate your fucking thumb. I don't know if I could do it. Could you do it? I don't think I could do it.
Like in Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson does it to his shoulder.
Oh yeah, I think it was the fourth one.
And then when he slams it into the wall to pop it back in. Fuck that sound design as well.
I could do that. I don't know what it is. It just happened in the football game tonight. One of the quarterbacks had his fucking middle finger dislocated, and they showed it on TV. And I'm just like, I can watch horror movies all day long where people just get viciously murdered. But if you show me like a finger dislocated, I'm
In
just
the
like,
wrong
oh,
place.
I can't. Yeah.
Ugh. Why is this finger pointing that way?
I'll try to find a picture of it. It was pretty fucked up.
No,
His
thanks.
fucking middle finger is at a 90-degree angle
You
at
show
one
me
of the
that middle
joints.
finger, I will show you mine, sir. No thanks.
Well played, sir. Well played.
You show me yours, I'll show you mine, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I also love the detail, though. So, like, the thing that I've always heard about being tied with ropes is that ropes are slippery and that blood is slippery. And he's, like, twisting his wrist back and forth so the rope's, like, cut in, and he's using the slipperiness of the blood and the rope to almost get out of it before he realizes he has to do that. Because that's one of the leading theories on how Jesus was crucified, actually. Why the nails? Because nails alone won't do it. Once you put him upright, the nails are going to tear out. There's also the tradition that we know of, the ones that we find where people were tied to it and no nails, but nails were expensive to make, so it was thought they reclaimed the nails after death. And they think it's actually both. They think the ropes are too slippery to hold, but the nails won't do it on their own. They thought it was both. So that's one thing that I've always grown up in private schools and Christian schools listening to is blood is slippery, ropes are slippery, and nails are expensive. And I'm watching this movie, this guy's hands are tied, and he's literally twisting his wrist back and forth until the rope rubs through his skin and is using the blood to try to slip his way out. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, that is what I've been hearing my entire life, and I'm watching a dude do it in a horror movie.
Indeed.
I don't know. I know that was a long walk to that, and people are probably thinking, what the hell? But that kind of blew me away, just because that's a theory that I've been hearing my entire life, and I'm watching that being actively used in the plot of a horror movie.
It's very researched for a horror movie, which I appreciate. Very, very researched. Not half-assed in any aspect of the filmmaking, acting, everything.
This movie is
amazing.
Such a hidden gem that I wish more people would find.
Me too. One good thing that it has going for it is the fact that it's a Netflix production.
And
because people, just like what I do every single year, October rolls around and you're jonesing around the streaming services for horror movies. And this is going to be one of the ones that they have at the top of the list because, you know, they're rightfully pretty proud of it. You know, this is a movie where I've never heard a single person watching it and not viewing it as at least really fucking solid and worth your time, ranging to how you and I feel about it and how it's legitimately great, and it's just very underrated.
And it's breezy, 94 minutes.
So I think we got an additional random string of tangents, but the immortality thing.
Oh, yes.
The price that these people pay for their immortality is they live forever until you don't want to live anymore because you're a fucking husk. Luke comes up across this fucking room full of what looks like mummified remains, but they're all still breathing, dude. And it's so creepy because when he just another instance of the silence that's awesome is when he walks in here and it's dead silent.
Dude, you've been hearing all these voices and he walks in and the voices cease.
So creepy. And when they all start, like, they look like fucking crypt keepers, dude. It's so unnerving. And you know, and you just start to speculate just how old you have to be to get to that point. And you realize just how long this cult has been running and how many people have, because they, at one point, the group of friends, you know, they find the bodies of some people who had gotten captured and killed in, like, it was like the 80s. I don't have like a credit card that would expire in the 80s or something like that, or the 90s.
Yeah. And the family,
and it's just like, and you see these mummified people are hundreds of years old, if not thousands, to get to this very, very mummified state, but still be alive. And it's just like, man, I love stuff that talks about the consequences of immortality in ways like that. It's just very interesting to me.
Now, the insinuation, I doubt they did it. They can barely move. But Dom, the sacrifice, is being made ready by getting beat up in this room in front of these things, right? That's the insinuation. Because you can hear the voices of these things talking as it's happening. And it's directly upstairs, which is where Dom is being made ready.
Now, the scene that we haven't talked about yet, that we would be remiss by not talking about.
Hold on. Before we get there, because this is on the way down, right? That's on his way out that it happens.
Yes.
I want to talk about the moment Luke just breaks. He just is like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I can't fucking do this anymore. I don't know what's happening anymore. He's standing there, he sees the mummy breathing, and then they start making noises, and at first his reaction is just like, ah, right? Like it would be. And then as they all start doing it, it just kind of glazes over, and he's just standing there staring at them all, and he just looks at this one and just stares at it, almost without blinking, and just slowly moves the torch over to it and lights its face on fire casually.
He does it so casually.
And then he just kind of slowly turns to the next one and just very casually does it. And his eyes are almost glazed over, and he's got like no expression on his face. He's just blanked out.
Because at this point, he had already seen Dom die, right?
Yeah.
Because so at this point, when all of his friends are gone, he's got nothing to lose, and that's his kind of mindset. He's just in fuck it mode, dude. And it's really cool. I love in horror movies when you have a character go into just like that kind of like fuck it berserker mode, and they're actually competent.
Yes.
I love that. Did you ever see the oh god, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was a horror remake from a few years ago. Oh god, it's something with the Hills.
The Hills Have Eyes?
Is that what it was? I believe so. The Hills Have Eyes.
Was that a Rob Zombie? I don't remember.
I don't think so. I think the Hills Have Eyes remake. If it has the dude from the X-Men movies, this is the one. I think this is it. Alexander
2006.
Aja. It's got
Wes Craven based upon his film. Ted Levine is in it.
Hills Have Eyes.
Fuck me?
Yeah, Aaron Sanford. Yeah. Aaron Sanford played Pyro from X-Men. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
Have you seen that remake?
Long time ago.
I love the segment where Aaron Sanford's character actually is competent at fighting back. Always love that in horror movies. Like anytime you have a character that is fully fucking competent, and they're not a fucking superhero about it. Like I really like how he's fighting back, but then the gun doesn't work because it's like a fucking 30-year-old rifle that hasn't been shot.
Right.
And
like then several the poor bastard that it starts working again.
Yeah, it's awesome because he's competent and he's trying, but he's a human, and I just think that's Ready or Not, when they have that kind of where she's competent but not incredible at fighting back. Love that element of
there's a lot of happy accidents that happen in her favor, but they're believable accidents. They're stuff that have been set up properly, so when they happen, you don't have to suspend your disbelief to buy into it.
Fucking love it.
So the thing Geoff is alluding to is the thing that he and I both burst out laughing. Okay, so the one thing I meant to mention at the beginning of this is this whole podcast we mentioned in episode 0 is predicated on the fact that once a month, sometimes occasionally twice, Geoff would bring a movie over to my house that I hadn't seen or hadn't seen in a long time. He thought I should give another shot. And I would do the same thing. And we would watch both movies and just sit around and talk about it. And then COVID hit and our movie days ceased. And we turned our movie days into a podcast eventually. This was one of the movies that I had showed Geoff because I had found it that night. I think that same week. And then that weekend, I was like, Geoff, we are watching this Netflix movie called The Ritual. And you laughed just as hard as I did. When there's a character in this cult we haven't mentioned yet, that if this was the Eaters of the Dead, a.k.a. 13th Warrior, this would be the old crone / angel of death that rolls the bones. And reads the bones. She had come in earlier and inspected them and everything. She finds him and he's coming down after lighting the mummies upstairs on fire. And they just have this moment where they stare at each other. And he does the same cold cock that he does to Dom earlier in the woods.
Oh my god, dude.
And just
it's so
fucking
good.
takes her out.
Dude. It's what makes it
one of the best callbacks in movies.
What makes it is the awkward pause.
Yes.
Where they both look at each other but don't react yet, and it's just his first fucking instinct is just that fucking uppercut,
just
dude.
Punch that grandma right in the face.
Oh my god. Cinema.
How many horror movies is this a problem? Right? You come down the stairs, the old lady has found him, and then that's what ensues the pursuit or the chase or whatever happens. Or they turn around and run back up the stairs, and now they're trapped in the house because there's an old lady at the bottom of the stairs. He just fucking cold cocks her, and she goes down.
Problem fucking solved, mate. and it sounds funny. It sounds funny just talking about it, but man, you have to see it.
And it's so tense when you see her face when he comes down the stairs. It's a very tense, very serious moment. But he punches her in the exact same way he breaks Dom's nose earlier. Oh my god, it's so good.
It's fucking amazing. At that moment, this movie goes from an A to an S tier, and it is just the greatest thing that's ever happened. You know, like I said last week, that scene is up there with the Clancy Brown suicide of Buster Scruggs. It is just one of those fucking moments of cinema mastery that I wish I could like erase from my brain just to I wish I could Eternal Sunshine that shit just to have it happen again. I want to experience that. Because that's one of the best things about movies is just being surprised by it. Like probably my favorite moment in a theater that I wish I could delete from my brain to go back and experience again is the Captain America Mjolnir scene.
That's what I was about to say.
It is. When I'm in a bad mood some days, what I'll do, and this will instantly just like put a little pep in your step, YouTube audience reactions to that moment, and it just takes me back to just how an entire audience of fucking 400 people just losing their shit over an unexpected thing. And there's nothing like it, dude. There's nothing like it. It's just...
at this point, it's been so long, and this is one of the stories I've told so many times. I don't even remember if it happened to you and you told me about it, or it happened to me. I think it happened to you and you told me, and it's just been integrated into one of the stories that I tell. But also when he yells, "Avengers!" and there's that pause, and then someone just yells, "Say it!" And then he finally says a symbol.
Yeah, after like 20 fucking movies.
Yeah.
Well,
say it!
Man.
One of those from me you were there for.
I know exactly what you're talking.
Not Get Out. Fucking Don't Breathe.
We need to watch that.
Yes, we do.
Again, so we have an excuse to watch the sequel and cover that. We need to cover both of those.
There's that moment. The whole premise is the dude's blind, and they're all in a circle around him, trying not to move, not to breathe, nothing. And that one person steps backwards, and the floorboard creaks. And when there was that lady 3 rows down in front of us, it's just like, oh shit.
The entire audience is just busting out laughing. And they were probably embarrassed as fuck, but I'm so happy they did that.
I'm so happy that happened. This is why I miss movie theaters.
We that happened, I think 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and we still remember that moment vividly. I can hear the cadence of the oh shit still to this day.
I wish I had that oh shit on a hot button that I could just push on my Stream Deck.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Fucking money, dude.
Oh,
so we're getting up there in time, so I want to go ahead and because we do have let's go ahead and finish off our thoughts.
Can I say one thing before we close out?
Yeah, we have a few minutes left because we still have some closing admin stuff, but there's one last thing I would like to talk about too. So you go ahead and then I'll talk about my last thing.
I wanted to go first because mine immediately follows the grandma punch. Grandma punch. Anyway, is you go from, this is what I was talking about with levity, tension and levity, right? We just left the mummy room, as you do when you have a spare bedroom, you make it the mummy room.
Of course.
You come downstairs, punch grandma in the face, and the next thing you see is one of the cultists backing away, not even paying attention to Luke at all. And when Luke turns, there's the legs at the door, and you see the Jawa face just slowly come down and look through the door at him. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Dude, we went from what the fuck is happening to, oh my god, that's the funniest shit I've ever seen, to what the fuck?
Because it turns from like the Blair Witch into a kaiju movie.
Yeah.
While also having and the thing that I wanted to talk about is as he's running away, after he does, he has like one fucking bullet left, and he turns around and is fucking real bad. I mean, you know, it wasn't gonna do any good, but man, like I said earlier, fucking badass moment when he just turns around and fucking shoots the thing. Dude, you're just like, fuck yeah, dude.
When he is bringing it up, he's still in that state where, like, he's not even really conscious. He's still in that same state he was in when he just casually lit the mummy on fire. Like, his eyes are glossed over. He's got almost no expression on his face. And he's not even looking away. He's just staring at the thing as the rifle slowly comes up. And he fires the shot. Like, it's the natural thing to do. I'm just going to shoot this fucking moose jaws dead in the woods.
He's like in a perfectly zen state of fight or flight. It's really weird.
He just fucking broke, basically.
He has all of his friends are now dead, and
he's in full fuck you mode, like
he's in full fuck it mode. He has nothing left to lose, and he's just acting on just raw fucking survival instinct, but not being angry about it because he's just kind of dead inside during the scene. But the thing that I wanted to talk about, one of my favorite details in the entire fucking movie, is as he's running away from the creature, because after he shoots it, the creature just goes into full chase mode. As he's going and he sees the edge of the forest that they're trying to get to, that they've been trying to get to, I should say, throughout the movie. He sees the edge of the forest and he's just in full fucking sprint trying to get away from the monster. And the fact that he runs through the liquor store one last time, and it's just like the beautiful metaphor of him finally being able to put that element of his life behind him, because he has redeemed himself. He did everything he possibly could to save his friends. It was out of his control. And the fact that the monster,
alludes back to something that we talked about at the beginning, is he did everything that he possibly could, and it still didn't matter.
Because that is the exact scenario that it was with Rob.
The liquor store.
Because in the liquor store, what more than likely, and now the human thing that is true is if it happened to you or if it happened to me, you can't help but feel that guilt.
Yes. Because
that is how the human fucking brain works. You know, you'll be having a great fucking day and your brain is just like, hey, here's that horrible fight you had with your girlfriend 10 years ago. Or you know, here's that awful, embarrassing thing you did to yourself, you know, in elementary school, because your brain is just hardwired. Your brain is just, for whatever reason, hardwired to fuck with you in very depressing ways sometimes.
Yeah.
So you know, and you know, people that have dealt with guilt, you know, you just can't fucking help it. But what more than likely would have happened if he actually turned around and tried to fight off those dudes is they both would have died.
Yes.
There was nothing, or he could have been, because they could have just robbed
of Rob's death.
He could have directly caused it, because for all he knew, what was going to happen is it didn't go violent. All it did was rob them, and you know, they just left. You know, you don't know, and it was completely out of his control, just like to your point. But the detail I love is the monster crashing through the shelves of the liquor store.
Yes. As
is so cool.
Thing.
Is such a cool little detail that, man. And again, we talked about it earlier, but when the very first time I saw this movie, all the stuff when they first revealed the kind of dream state of the liquor store being in the woods, that's when I have sometimes those moments when I'm watching a movie and it's like, this thing was made for me.
Yeah.
That is just such a cool concept, and it's all built around this really cool character that I think is incredibly fleshed out. And man, when this third act is happening, I'm rooting for Luke so fucking hard, dude, because you want him to redeem himself, and you know, you just feel so sympathetic towards him. And I love this character. I love this ending. And let's talk about it. Like, the way that it ends, he actually he lives, he gets away. He gets to the end of the woods and he turns around and he just has this real fucking guttural scream towards the monster, and that's the ending shot of the movie.
Yep, pretty much. And again, less is more. It just turns and walks away towards a highway where you had seen a car driving, and it just goes to credits.
And it's very tragic too, because this character has redeemed himself, but man, you know, I don't think any amount of therapy is gonna make up for what has just happened. And not to mention, he's probably gonna end up having to tell the cops, and the cops are gonna have to go investigate it. And those cops ain't fucking making it if they go up against the goddamn creature, dude.
And not
the
only
fucking
that,
Moose Jawa.
Moose Jawa. Yeah, so on top of all of that, though, I mean, there's more families to talk to, more families that are going to see their husbands and fathers dead and Luke surviving again. And it's just like...
It's rough.
Jesus.
It's a very dark ending because it's like the legal implications. He's going to be the suspect numero fucking uno. They're going to think this dude killed all of his friends in the fucking woods in Sweden until they go and investigate and find all the evidence, and you just don't know. And it's a cool ambiguous ending. And ambiguous endings are sometimes so arbitrary and so forced just to be in vogue that they kind of ruin elements of the movie. But I really like this ending because I think that it's ambiguous, but it's ambiguous in good ways. It's not.
It is
shoehorned into it.
But I didn't see it as them trying to be ambiguous. I saw it as whatever happens from this point on does not serve this movie. We have a 94-minute runtime. We're not wasting the audience's time.
Yeah.
And everything the audience needs to know just happened. Right?
Yeah, agreed.
That's the way I didn't see it. And I think that's one reason why it works as an ambiguous ending is because I don't think they set out to try to make it. Is it doesn't feel like it's trying to be ambiguous. It just feels like, and that's our show, folks.
It's ambiguous. It's not trying to like.
It's ambiguous by nature, but it's not trying to make you stop and think.
It's like the opposite of like the Inception ending.
Yes.
It's not trying to make like a point of it.
It's not trying to be profound or anything.
Your brain can, start to connect the dots of what happens to this character next, and it's very heartbreaking and tragic because like this man just like went through hell, and
basically his hell is not over.
Yeah, his hell is not over, and it's But man, what a fucking movie, dude! This movie's great. I mean, now that we've spoiled everything, still go fucking watch it because it's great. But man. Really fucking good.
What a great movie. It's such a hidden gem. I'm glad that it's distributed by Netflix in the States because that means it will live on Netflix forever, and just about everybody has Netflix. And sooner or later, more people will find it.
Yep.
It's a great movie.
I think it will have a small cult following that just, kind of builds, over time. And, it's never going to get to the levels of, like an Evil Dead or anything like that,
and I like that it seems to be a one-off because it was 2017 and we don't have like the rituals or anything.
Yeah, that they didn't hoard out into a direct-to-DVD style
Netflix didn't
franchise.
Say, hey, you got any more of them rituals? Yeah.
It's a great one and done story. So I think that's going to be a wrap to our talk of The Ritual. So before I reveal the next Halloween spectacular, since this episode is going live the first episode of October, my next one is going to be dropping, I believe, on the 23rd.
And so that one we will be celebrating basically 1 year of this podcast, Jeff.
Yeah, so this is our 1 year anniversary-ish / Halloween special. So I'll reveal that momentarily, but just real quickly, if you can and you enjoy the show, we'd really appreciate it if you would just drop a little subscribe to us, whatever platform you're listening to us on. Reviews are incredibly helpful to get us more traction. Ratings, whatever you can do to help us out. You can follow us for show updates over on Twitter at SPR Filmcast. And Ron, where can people find you when you are not talking about giant bloodborne moose jawas?
But I'm not sitting around talking about giant bloodborne moose jawas. You can find me just playing Bloodborne over on Twitch, YouTube, and talking about Bloodborne on Twitter at RonSenseTV.
Yeah, check out Ron's most recent, or one of his most recent. How many Bloodborne streams have you had this week? Just one?
Just the one so far, yes.
Yeah, check out Ron's stream from this week with the chat on, because that was a lot of fun. We were having just a lot of very random strings of tangents in the chat while also watching Ron.
Such a small community. I basically have no community at all, but the people that hang out, I don't know how I have found the handful of people on the internet that are not assholes.
Yeah, everyone is great.
Aside from you, Jeff, of course.
I mean, I mean, what yeah, I'm the Dom of Screenplay Rewind. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if you just get that knee looked at, you wouldn't be so fucking angry, Jeffrey Dom.
It's my fucking meniscus. I've done it before. Fuck you, Ron.
I'm the meniscus of the internet. If we had titles on our stuff that was not the name of the movie, the meniscus of the internet.
It's pretty good. But yeah, what we are going to cover for the next
please.
episode.
The
What
Thing
I want
remake.
to do.
The Thing prequel.
What I want to do is we're going to mix it up a little bit. I want to do
rom-com.
a commentary while we're progressively getting more and more drunk of The Lighthouse. Because I think the only way you can properly watch The Lighthouse is getting more progressively drunk with a buddy.
Dude, if I had a gin and tonic, I'd fuck it.
And if you have watched The Lighthouse, you will understand what Ron just said. So watch The Lighthouse.
Just please, Jeff, if you need to fart, go to the restroom. Don't do that.
That's gonna be part of the drinking game. Dude. Every time he farts, that's a drink. Every time he farts, you take a drink. Every time there's a mermaid, take a drink.
That mermaid poon?
Yeah. Also a great band name, but I digress. The Lighthouse is also available for streaming on Prime Video.
Mermaid poon.
And
I think I saw them at the BOK once.
Yeah. They opened up for Bloodborne Creature Moose Jawa. Not as good as Mermaid Poon, but it's pretty good.
Well, sometimes the opener's the best show, you know?
So, yeah, what we're probably going to do is we will hang out and watch it and record it as a commentary. But you know that the way Ron and I discuss, I think you will still be able to listen to that episode just as a regular episode because it'll be conversational. It's not going to just be us waiting for scenes to happen. We'll be bullshitting as we tend to do, as you can tell.
And that's a great pick for a commentary because it's not like it's Fast and Furious 9. There's not a lot of shit blowing up. There's not a lot of stuff that's going to get us to stop talking. It's a slow burn, Lovecraftian horror, lots of symbology, lots of analogy, lots of allegory that we can sit and discuss as the slow burn is happening. As with any commentary, please watch the film first and then rewatch it with us. I think it is one that I think you would get a lot from doing that. If not, at least watch it with us because The Lighthouse needs to be seen by more people. That movie, great film. We saw it in theaters.
One of my absolute favorite movies of the past decade. It's just the Lighthouse is just one of those things where it's so fucking weird. It's all of that that it's a mix of Lovecraftian elements with horror, with great performances, with actors I adore. It's one of those things where it's like I feel like it was made for me.
Yeah.
I love it. I wanted to do something different for the kind of Halloween special, and like you said, it's basically the 1 year anniversary, so I thought I'm doing our first commentary for that would be fun.
That's a great pull, sir. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I don't think I've actually seen it since the theater. So
I own it, and I have not watched it again since the theater.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. So tune back in a couple of weeks for that one, and y'all have a good night.